Hello, good evening, and a very warm welcome to the Hot Seat. In the Hot Seat today is an eminent legal personality who's going to be asking questions surrounding a couple of very important matters which the public have expressed their concern about. On that note, let's welcome this evening Mr. Gomin Dayasri. Very good evening to you, Mr. Dayasri.
Pleasure to be with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now then, Mr. Dayasri, I wanted to ask you this. We have the Presidential Commission of Inquiry looking into the issuance of the bonds, and several people will be going and saying, oh no, not the bonds again. But tell me, what's your take on the current progress that the Commission of Inquiry has made?
Extremely impressive, for the reason that the three commissioners are digging into the whole matter and eliciting very useful information which was not forthcoming. Now I think all credit should be given to President Sirisena. I am no supporter of his, but I got to give it to him in that way, because if not for him, we would be in the same position that Prime Minister Wickremesinghe is doing with the FCID inquiries. I mean, there are so many charges that have been filed in court, but not a single item of evidence has been presented to the public or to the people.
But that can't be Mr. Wickremesinghe's fault, surely.
No, but that's the route he took. I mean, the route that President took on this matter, and look at what did Mr. Wickremesinghe do. First, he had an investigation by three people. Now, that is totally meaningless exercise, because here
did the three-member committee have any legal impact?
It neither had legal nor any impact whatsoever financially or economically or otherwise politically, because throughout that procedure...
So what was it then? What was it? What was the three-member committee?
The three-member committee that was appointed had Mr. Mahendran overshadowing all the witnesses. He was still in control of the... as governor of the central bank, he was in a position to control those witnesses. The witnesses never came and revealed these matters. If at all, if anybody's been questioned on a very serious matter, a huge money scam, what is the first thing he should do?
Would I be on safe ground, Mr. Dayasri, if I put it to you that the three-member committee was nothing more than a sham?
It was a sham, and it certainly proved to be a sham. I think Mr. Wickremesinghe...
So what shall we do with those lawyers who made up those three?
Well, if they have been paid more, I think they should be surcharged and asked to pay something in return. But anyway, that's a small matter. But the fact...
Do you think they should be debarred from practicing as lawyers?
No. I don't think we should do anything of that nature. Those poor three fellows must have been picked up from thin air, and probably they will go back into the proper vacuum they arrived from. But the fact is, Mahendran should have known to resign or withdraw from his position, because how could his subordinates come freely and give evidence as they are presently doing, and that evidence now is being heard by judges of the Supreme Court, two judges of the Supreme Court, and assisting me is a very eminent gentleman from retired gentleman from the Auditor General's Department.
Mr. Dayasri, if there is so much of prima facie evidence of a possible of a case to be made, then there will be a school of thought to argue and say, well, why should we have another inquiry? Why don't we go straight to court?
You can go to court, but court wouldn't have been day-to-day proceedings. The court would have had one day in January, and the next day would have been in September. Probably would have been three sittings throughout the year. But
then this commission doesn't have punitive powers. So what next after the commission?
That is very interesting. Now, they don't have punitive powers, but they can make recommendations. Now, when they did make recommendations, one of the special presidential commissions to eliminate or remove the civic rights of Mrs. Bandaranaike, that was under special presidential commission law. This is also under the Commission of Inquiry law. Now, when she did that, what happened? The three commissioners said the civic rights should be deprived. The Supreme Court, she appealed to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court completely destroyed that order, said it's a nullity, that there's a violation of natural justice.
Right.
But what happened? J.R. Jayawardena brought a bill in Parliament and vetoed the decision of the Supreme Court and made the order of the commissioners effective. so that she lost the civil rights.
Wasn't that rather draconian?
Absolutely, but that same procedure is now possible. Once these recommendations are made, the government can, if the opposition also supports it and gives sufficient support to this matter, it is possible to pass legislation that the recommendations be implemented, because in that case, if recommendations that were made were nullified by the Supreme Court, mind you, Supreme Court, Neville Samarakon was the Chief Justice at that time.
Yes.
He nullified that judgment, saying it has to be vitiated because of the fact that natural justice had been violated. There was a bias, he said. Now, in the light of all those criticisms, Jaya Jayawarden still made the judgment effective. But now, all that President Sirisena has to do is he has to get his SLFP MPs, even if the UNP does object to it, and then pass legislation to recommend this. So you are on a fast track. But the real beauty of it is that every day we hear new matters emerging. We find witnesses from the central bank who never surfaced before the commission, the earlier committee, because how could they? Because this gentleman was still the governor of the central bank. Have you ever heard of a situation where the Prime Minister should at least have suspended him from service, should have told him, you stay out till the inquiry is over, once the inquiry is over, on the findings we'll come to a decision.
But how can you tell your friends that?
Well, is it a question of friends and enemies, or is it a question of police, cowboys and crooks? No, he has to act correctly. If a friend does a wrong thing, the friend is in the wrong. You can't say friends. You have to, I mean, this is not friends' money or friends your money.
It's the people's money.
It's the people's money, and
on that,
EPF money.
On that note, we'll take a short break. Don't go away. After all, this is the Hot Seat. And welcome back to the Hot Seat. And in the hot seat today is, of course, Mr. Gomin Dayasri, that eminent legal personality. Now then, Mr. Dayasri, tell me, what do you think, what is the political impact of this decision made by President Sirisena to appoint the Commission of Inquiry, and the fact that it appears to be making so much of progress, and bearing in mind, of course, that Arjuna Mahendran, the former governor of the central bank, was a nominee of the United National Party, the other component member of this unity government, or one of the key components of that government.
Let's take a comparison. The first committee consisted of 3 virtually unknown lawyers. Here we have 3 very eminent people, 2 judges of the Supreme Court, and of them I would say 2 of the best judges of the Supreme Court, and they are inquiring into the matter. 2, you find that witnesses are coming and saying things without any fear. This kind of evidence never originated, never got media attention. In fact, I can remember this station during the Udulagama Commission, in fact, put everything on TV, and the whole thing was presented live on TV in the mornings, the sessions. Now here at least the newspapers are there, the media is there, we know what is happening. And the third is the fact that today nobody fears anymore Mahendran. He is a non-entity. Though he may be important to the Prime Minister, but he, as far as the public are concerned, he is no longer the governor. The officers of the department are coming and boldly giving evidence, and that evidence is being analysed.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, what damage or what impact has the President's decision had on this unity government?
We can see that President seems to be more interested in good governance than the Prime Minister, because the Prime Minister tried, if possible, to disarm the evidence from being brought into public realm. But on the other hand, the President has brought it into the public realm, is presenting it and getting a very quick job. Now, if it went to court, what would they think of laws delays? The judges would have, the council would have been asking for dates on personal grounds. The witnesses wouldn't have been available. But here it's fast-tracked. Witnesses are informed.
But what will happen then after the commission? Well, what is the scenario post the commission?
Post scenario would be the recommendations would have to be implemented. Now that they can do very easily, following the Jaya Jayawarden formula, give a legal efficacy by legislation. That is the best thing to do, because that is, you don't have to have any more inquiries.
Are you sort of suggesting that this will take a long time more,
well,
and then that we may run out of steam because there's only another 3 years left for the full term of this Parliament?
Yes, but this commission has a term itself. It's only 3 months. They have to give the report in 3 months. They may be able to get one extension.
So hypothetically, if this report says that we need to prosecute A, B, and C.
And A, B, and C may be VIPs also.
Yes, then what happens?
Now,
what
that is a very good question you put to me, Faraz, because it can have a great impact. Because, in a sense, people will have a great disbelief in good governance. They may lose confidence in democracy. You might well give a situation where a military monster might arrive on the scene.
But these are sort of old-la-di-la matters. What about actually what will happen on the ground? What can be done when the Presidential Commission of Inquiry gives out its report with its recommendations?
We don't know what the recommendations are. We can only speculate. But
yes.
Let us assume that the evidence proves that Mr. Mahendran is in the wrong. Let's say assumption. That I think that is the final result. But let us assume that it is so.
Yeah.
Then the President can put it forward, have a debate in Parliament, and thereafter pass necessary legislation, just like in Mr. Bandaranaike's case.
Yeah, but isn't there a role for the Attorney General?
If you bring the Attorney General, nothing will happen. We have seen Attorney Generals, great men.
So then what's the option?
The option is, I think the President has brought it to the correct forum. He has brought it before the 2 Supreme Court judges, and so that he can't say that.
But they have no meat to take any punitive action.
They have no meat. The meat has to be provided to them, not to them, to the recommendations.
Right.
Now, once those recommendations are given effect to, now we had the LLRC Commission. They gave recommendations. What did the last government do? They just did nothing. Then the Gulagama Commission gave recommendations. They found, I've read the reports. I saw that the Trincomalee case, they should have prosecuted the STF officers. They didn't.
Yeah.
And in the Mutur case, they exonerated them completely. So there was no necessity for any kind of further witch hunt.
Yeah.
Now, in this case, let us assume that Mr. Mahendran is let loose. Then he should be exonerated. Then he can even be restored to his former position. But on the other hand, if he is found guilty and those around him are also found guilty, well, there are two things. You will have to go back to court and get a prosecution, which might take years with the Attorney General's department. Remember, we have had Attorney Generals, people like Bud Jansen, Noel Gratian, Victor Tennakoon. They were fast-track gentlemen. But today, these
but there are far more, to be fair, there are far more cases now.
There are far more cases, but at the same time, at least these are prime cases. These are a case. I don't think we had a scam of this level ever before. Where so much of public funds has been expended that so few benefited at the expense of so many. So,
so in a nutshell, you saying that President Sirisena is his report card is looking at a much higher position than his Prime Minister?
Of course, I am not a supporter of his, but I would certainly give him a lot of credit for what he's done, and I will also put a lot of minus marks on Mr. Wickramasinghe's territory, because that was the only territory he was gaining ground on integrity, and that can get shattered. And my fear is, will people lose confidence in democracy? Will people lose confidence in good governance? And will people think that discipline and law and order is very necessary? Will they turn to a military monster? And Ranil Wickramasinghe, mind you, I'll tell you one thing, he is not a man who would go against democracy, but he may be too weak. He may be building up people unconsciously, and I think this could lead to a breakup of the government also, because certainly if any action is contemplated against the UNP, against the UNP hierarchy, I think some of the UNP MPs will not like it, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see new permutations and combinations developing. For example, you might find Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Sirisena, maybe Vijayadasa Rajapaksa. And now we see a new phenomenon. You can see quietly, these are the signs of a midterm results. You can see Champika Ramanavaka refusing to sit on a committee. You can see certain other people wishing to withdraw.
So the midterm blues are with us.
Well, it could be. We'll watch and see what the SLMC is doing next, and we will...
Let's discuss that aspect after a short break. Don't go away. After all, this is the interesting part of the hot seat. And welcome back to the hot seat with Mr. Gomin Dayasri. Now then, Mr. Gomin Dayasri, we spoke about the impact that the Commission of Inquiry into the bond matter is having on the political union between these two major parties. Now then, there's also another matter which is on the minds of the people, and that is income tax. And there is that new draft proposal to amend the Act and so on. Now, Mr. Dayasri, there is a section there that says that you can't, if you at the moment, if you are assessed and if you disagree, you can have a discussion and you can present your case and so on and so forth. But under the new draft, it appears that that discussion aspect has been removed, making it almost arbitrary, the assessor's assessment.
Yes, because right now there's an appeal to a board, and then from that appeal to courts,
right.
So that you are finally in safe hands, because the third party, which has no interest whatsoever, will finally adjudicate on the matter.
Yeah,
but now they are bringing in legislation which says that the assessor can completely decline to accept a paper submitted by a taxpayer, and he doesn't have to give reasons. Now this is curious, because I mean, it's like Alice in Wonderland. Because
yes, it's curious.
Quite so, because the reason is natural justice, which is a fundamental principle of our administrative law. Requires reasons to be given. So if a member of the public whose appeal is not heard and who's given no reasons can ask for reasons so that he can challenge the decision. If you don't, that is a fundamental in law. So now the question is, if this bill is brought, it can be challenged in court. It should be challenged because you are doing one of the fundamental rights of a person to know why his assessment is refused, the grounds of it. But if you don't know the grounds, how are you going to appeal? You have a right of appeal without knowing what the reasons are. And why are they taking this off? What is the bona fides of removing it? Because you are taking away one of the inherent rights that public has in knowing reasons. Now, if this goes on, if you allow this to develop, the courts don't put a stop to it, everything will be done without reasons.
Is this some sort of cynical attempt to impose further control?
It's arbitrary. It's arbitrary, totally arbitrary, and it is, you are trying to create imposters. You will have a military imposter, and you may have a civil imposter.
What can the people do?
That is the trouble. No, people take anything lying down. People must agitate. People must go to court. But the thing is, even
should people be writing emails, for example?
They could do several things.
Who should they be writing those emails?
They should write to the president, none other than the president. But the point is, even to court. Now, for example, I heard yesterday in a program that one eminent gentleman had written to the speaker asking him for the bill. The speaker said, I don't have the bill with me. Now, the speaker also gets the bill just 1 week before we put it in the agenda, and within a week, you have to formulate the objections, you have to read the statute, which may not be available, and you have only 1 week's time to
study the whole thing.
Not study, you have to present your petition also within a week.
Oh, I see.
mean, normally you are given 6 months or 3 weeks or 2 weeks. But in 1 week you have to do all that with the bill. Still, it's not in the hands of the speaker. I don't know who signs it.
Why is this short time frame?
It's all hush because you know you are in the wrong. You want to push this legislation through the back door.
Right.
Yeah, otherwise, once public gets to know, there's be agitation.
Right.
Now, that is what happened in some of the bills that were brought by Chandrika Kumartunga. She brought it, she gave notice to the public.
Yeah.
And then what happened? The public objected to it, and they were dropped. For example, the one that was schools. They were trying to bring schools under control of the state.
Yeah.
Those matters were knocked down by relevant parties going to court in time.
Yeah.
Because you can bring fundamental rights actions, but as far as the bill is concerned, you have to take necessary action within a week, and I think 1 week is totally insufficient. They should at least put 3 weeks to a month so that the bill can be studied, there can be public discussion, and people can formulate opinions, and that will be beneficial finally in implementing the bill.
Is there any possibility that this unity government might break up as a result of these sort of other actions?
That's a very good question, because I think we can have a program on it, because I think this is the first step to a breakdown, and a new, as I said, new combinations, new permutations can take place, because I think President Sirisena now realizes that any further association with the Ranil Wickremesinghe government is harmful to his kind of support that he has. The support from the villagers, the support from the south, the support from the majority of the people, because if he is now doing one by one, I find that he is trimming the work of the Prime Minister, and soon there will be a clash between them, and I won't be surprised to see again the SLFP coming forward as one unit.
One last question, very quickly, as we come to the end of tonight's hot seat, and that is this. If the bond scam has caused so much of agony and negativity to the United National Party, will there be a move, do you think, or is there a move to have a new leader?
I think you need new leaders, not only from the government but in the opposition also. I think a new leadership must emerge from every political party, because I think we have been having this present bunch, whether in the government or in the opposition, and even in the certain people have been in both parties, both the opposition and in the government of respective parties. I think time is to come. They have been too long there, and I think we need young people, new people emerging as the leaders. Otherwise this country has had this leadership for the last 40 years. That is 2 generations of voters of 21 years have gone through them, and still they are there, but the voters have changed.
Time is of the essence. That would be the signing off
Precisely. I think that is just what you need, and I think we have to retire, and they should gracefully retire before they are thrown out.
So time is of the essence, and only time will tell the impact of the Commission of Inquiry into bonds, and of course the income tax, the new proposals on income tax. On that note, Gomin Dasri, thank you very much for being on.
Thank you for inviting me.
And we look forward to welcoming you on our network on a future date. Thank you very much again, Mr. Dasri.
Thank you, sir.
And that's it from the hot seat. We'll see you in a fortnight's time on Thursday at 9:30, straight after the news from News First. Take care. Good night.